Today, I'll show you a recipe that allowed the Amish to store meat and rice for up to 20 years without refrigeration. We'll also cover the one fatal mistake that turns a jar of food into poison in your pantry. This recipe has only 4 ingredients, and a single jar costs about $3 to make. In the 1930s, during the Great Depression, entire towns in America were starving. The Amish lived without electricity or refrigerators too, but they ate much better than city folks. Not because of luck, but because they had a system. A simple glass jar, cheap ingredients, and a rule: waste nothing. Just one jar like this could feed a family for days and survive decades of winters on a basement shelf. Today, I'm going to recreate this recipe and explain exactly why it works. In the next few minutes, you'll learn why pork became the ultimate survival meat, the deadly mistake people make when canning, how to layer rice and meat so the jar doesn't explode, and how to turn $3 into a hot dinner that will be waiting for you even 20 years from now. Let's go. The obvious question: why pork, not beef or chicken? For the Amish, beef was currency. Cows were raised to sell for tools, fabric, and nails. A pig was a piggy bank, cheap to keep, fast-growing, and slaughtered once a year when the first frost hit. On slaughter day, nothing was wasted. Ears went into head cheese, scraps into sausage, but the fattiest parts, neck and shoulder, went into jars. That's why I chose the fattiest cut of pork available. Here is the first survival principle. Fat is not the enemy. It's the main preservative. It protects the meat from drying out, carries flavor, and helps stop bacterial growth. One properly made jar of fatty meat could survive years on a shelf, while people outside were counting pennies for bread. The next ingredient is onion. Dice it small. The onion is crucial here. When onion hits hot fat, chefs call it caramelization. Natural sugars heat up, darken, and create that sweet, smoky flavor you can't get any other way. But mainly, the onion works like a sponge. It absorbs fat and meat aromas in the pan, and later, inside the jar, it releases them into the rice. 1 onion, 0 waste, maximum result. That's how you think when every calorie counts. Next, toss the meat into a searing hot pan. It must be blazing hot. The most common rookie mistake is putting raw meat directly into the jar. Don't do that unless you want gray mush instead of food. Add 2 to 3 tablespoons of salt. It should taste slightly oversalted. The rice will absorb it later, so be generous. Sear the meat on high heat until it has a bright golden crust. No stewing, no boiling, just intense heat for 10 to 15 minutes. This crust acts like a natural seal, locking the juices inside. Later, the rice will cook in these juices, not plain water. That's why it tastes deep, like it's from an oven. When the meat is golden, add the carrots. Fry for another 10 minutes. The carrots will soak up the fat and act as a flavor battery in the jar, slowly releasing everything they've absorbed. Stop. Now comes the most dangerous moment. Everything before this was prep. This step decides if you get food for 20 years or a glass grenade in your pantry. Take the rice. Rinse it until clean. Do not cook it. It will cook inside the jar. Rice behaves like a sponge. It greedily absorbs water and fat, expanding in volume. If you dump it all in a pile, you'll get either mush or a shattered jar. So we work in layers. First, a thin layer of rice on the bottom, about 2 fingers width. I'm making 3 backup jars. I'll open one for a holiday. On top, a generous layer of seared meat and veggies. The fat will drip down and soak every grain. Just look at that. It already looks delicious. Then another layer of rice. Then meat again. Repeat until the jar is filled, but do not fill it to the rim. Leave about an inch of empty space at the top. This is breathing room for the rice to expand. If you pack it tight, the pressure will crack the glass. The second critical mistake is a dirty rim. Any drop of fat on the seal is a bridge for bacteria. Before sealing, I wipe the rim with vinegar until the glass literally squeaks. Insurance against death. Into each jar goes one small but vital touch, a teaspoon of vinegar. The boiling water fills the gaps, and the vinegar's acidity helps suppress botulism, the main enemy of home canning. In the 1930s, botulism usually meant death. The Amish didn't read microbiology textbooks, but they knew the rule. Where there is fat, you need acid and heat. Vinegar and 4 hours of boiling weren't a folk method. They were insurance against a funeral. I'm making several jars. If the method is weak, it fails here. If done right, it's a proven survival technology. Next, the most important safety step: 4 hours of gentle boiling. During this time, the rice soaks up the broth and fat, becoming a dense, filling meal. I spent a lot of time testing this recipe. If you appreciated the effort, a like would mean a lot. And subscribe. More recipes like this are coming. While city families relied on grocery stores, they relied on a basement shelf filled with jars like these. That sound means one thing: you have a vacuum. The jar is sealed and ready for a 20-year hibernation. Moment of truth. Is it actually good? Imagine, snow outside, stores closed, power's out. You grab a jar made back in peaceful times. You open it and hear the hiss of air rushing in. The vacuum held. The rice isn't paste. The grains are separate, colored by the carrots and fat. The meat falls apart under a fork. It doesn't taste like store-bought canned food. It's a rich, hot, homemade dinner that was just waiting for its moment. For a lazy night, a blackout, or a real crisis. Why does this still work? Because it relies on basic principles, not chemicals. Ask questions in the comments. We'll cover mistakes and try other fillings. Be prepared. Then there's nothing to fear.